All right, here we go. Another episode of Aftershocks Tremors. Another discussion we're having here today with myself, Matt Hart, and of course my partner Chris Aiken. Happy New Year, everybody. Chris, how you doing? How's your New Year? Good.
Good so far. What are we?
A couple hours
16
into it.
hours in over here. Said nobody's died and there's no new variant, so I guess we're good on both fronts, right?
I guess so, man. Yeah, I mean, off to a really positive start, huh? In the first few hours here of
Exactly.
2022, and of course, when we think of the new year, being a music fan, I mean, the first thing I think of is okay, what's going to happen with music in 2022, specifically,
Sure,
of course, live music, right?
sure.
Obviously at this moment we've got a new variant out there, so of course there's more shows being canceled in certain spots. I think the good thing about this too is there are a lot of talking about here in the States at least, there's a lot of states that haven't closed down that are open. They're doing well. Out here in California, not so much. I don't know how it is in Ohio. I think things are pretty open in Ohio right now, are they?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they're starting to lean. They're here. That's starting to all of a sudden you're starting to see businesses with the, hey, you have to wear a mask again.
Okay.
You're starting to see that and starting to see that on some concert, some venues that weren't that way before. But for the most part, everything's, dude, I can't even tell you the last time I saw anybody wearing a mask.
Oh, wow.
Been a while. It's been a little while. So
Okay. Well, that's I wish I could say the same out here. That's not even close to that. But I have seen
suit.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Yeah, hazmat suits all over the place here. But no, I mean it is like I said. I do see a little bit more pushback with it than prior. I do see in terms of live shows. I haven't really, like we've been talked about, I haven't really been to any since the summer. There was a couple I was going to go to. I was going to go to that big Bay Area, Exodus, Testament, and Death Angel one. I had a lot of people. Oh, dude, you just can, just use this card, or you don't, no one's even really checking. But like we've talked about a lot off the air here, off the podcasts, recordings. I'm just someone who, yeah, to me, I don't want to go back to shows until I don't have to play this fucking game anymore. I don't want to play theater. I don't want to play playtime shit. So like, and I think you were saying the same thing. We're both sort of in the same. We had the same idea in terms of we're not going to start doing that until it's official, where there's no masks and none of this vaccine mandates and all that stuff.
Well, dude, the bottom line is neither of us are 20 years old anymore. 18.
Mm-hmm.
We're not trying to sneak into the store to buy beer anymore with our fake ID.
Exactly.
You don't want my money? Fuck you then. I'll keep it.
That's exactly it, man. And you're right. Exactly. We're older, so we're not gonna. I don't feel a need where it's like I'm missing out, where I have to go see the show.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, most of the bands that I wanted to see, I've seen already. The ones I haven't, they should be here. When things open up, they should be still around. If they're not, okay, well, it's not the end of the world that I'm going to miss a band that maybe has a good record and that's it. Even though that's something I do love to do. But yeah, I mean, once again, I mean, obviously, I'm definitely of the mindset. I think we both are here at Aftershocks. The glass being half full. I mean, we've dealt with this now for 2 years. It's sort of like I think everyone's kind of numb to it to this point where it's like, okay, things open up again, things are looking good, and we go back a little bit and we'll go back again. It's sort of the wash, rinse, repeat thing, that we've been doing for 2 years. So I think it's I think we're just sort of used to it by now. Now, in terms of, I think with the musicians themselves, I gotta, obviously it's gotta be very dispiriting for them, not even so much the fans, but really the artists themselves. It's gotta be as frustrating beyond belief. Once you think things are getting opened up again, it goes backwards. And like I said, it's gotta be so dispiriting because it's hard to really get any sort of, momentum going as a band if you can't get out there and play live.
No, you're right, man. But the counter to that is, and I'll just say it, the musicians need to shut the fuck up about their dispiritedness, because more and more they're sounding, and look, I get it. Everybody, I don't care what business you're in, you're fucking sick of COVID. You're tired of it. You're tired of hearing about it. You're tired of it ruining plans, ruining your life kind of. And I get all that. But man, when the musicians get on their social media, on their soapbox, and they start whining about, well, this is affecting my livelihood. It's like, shut the fuck up. You know, it's affecting our livelihoods too. You know, and we don't get to go out and play in front of 3,000 people for an hour and make a fucking month's worth of pay. So shut up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like and I'm not really picking at this guy because I actually consider him a friend, but I saw Craig Goldie from
Game. I saw that too.
Online whining about it, but he was whining under the guise of, well, it's affecting my livelihood. It's like, dude, it's affecting everybody's livelihood. You ain't no different. And for God's sakes, of all the people, you who works with a hologram, your singer ain't going to get COVID. So get out there and play.
I know, right?
Fucking A. You know, I mean, Jesus, you know, but it's just, it doesn't do the musicians any good. It does them nothing but bad, to be honest, to be whining about it. We're all in the same boat. Whining about it ain't doing no good. Do shows, don't do shows. If you're scared, don't do them. If you're not scared, do them. Simple as that.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely ways, I'll get into in a bit, you know, ways that I think a lot of these bands, just from my opinion, and I know you've got yours, we'll discuss a little bit about what really they can do, what they can control right now. In terms of, yes, keeping things in a very optimistic light. Like I said, yes, everybody is just very pessimistic about anything right now in general. So when it comes to music, remember, it is, you know, at this point, you know, for a lot of these musicians, it's becoming now more of, look, you're going to have to look at it as more of a hobby. You know what I mean? This isn't really something, I mean, that's number one on people's lists when people are, you know, being threatened with not being able to have a job and they can't afford to pay for, you know, their mortgage, whatever it may be.
Right. Sure.
Yeah. You know, it's just like, so, I mean, there's a lot more, you know, more important things. Unfortunately, I mean, music is very important. Obviously, this is why we're doing this, but obviously it's not, you know, number one on people's lists when it comes to, you know, when the world's going through what's going through right now. Now, in terms of, you know, live music in 2022, we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, it's probably going to be, at least the onset here, continuation of what we saw the last 2 years. But also, you know, during that small window we had between the summer and the fall of 2021, we had live music because it was 2021, which was another, you know, kind of a shit show of a year in general, even though I both me and you, I know we've had good years. You know what I mean? I don't look at 2021 as being a bad year, not just personally, but in terms of, you know, musically and everything. I think there's been a lot of positives. Of course, we couldn't. There had to be a tragedy that had to happen, and we saw that happen. You know, even though it wasn't a metal show, all right, or festival, it's something I think that's going to impact future metal shows, you know, hard rock and metal festivals and shows. And of course, you know, I'm talking about what happened during that whole, you know, Travis Scott Astroworld thing a couple of months ago, which, you know, reportedly, and I use the word reportedly very lightly, there was 10 people that died from, you know, from what happened. There was like a big stampede. A lot of kids got hurt. A lot of people reporting there was more than 10 people that got killed. But, you know, as we've seen, this whole thing's been sort of, I don't know about you, but I mean, when's the last time you've heard about this? This thing's been swept under the rug like nothing. I mean, can you imagine, you know, obviously it's been swept under the rug because you got Hollywood ties. Travis Scott's tied with the Kardashians. They don't want to affect any of that kind of shit because that's what's selling on mainstream, you know, media outlets. But, you know, think about the big fiascos where people died at shows and festivals over the years. You know, even go back to the 70s with the Ultimate Festival with the Hells Angels, you know, being the security guards of that show, and that whole fiasco. Obviously, more recently, Woodstock in '99. You know, we had obviously, you know, Pantera with, you know, Dimebag getting shot. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of, you know, there's been these unfortunate tragedies that have happened at big festivals and shows. Sure. Yet this one just completely got swept under the rug. No one even talks about it. But yet, if this was a metal festival, you banned it. Be sure they're going to be outlawing any type of music, big metal, hard rock festivals here in the United States, at least, because of that. But I find it very interesting that whole thing, it got swept under the rug, and it's going to affect and have definitely a negative effect, I think, on festivals going forward for the hard rock.
You know what, dude?
You don't think so?
Iffy. I mean, the reason it got swept under the rug to me is pretty obvious. The dude's fucking one of America's sisters. You know, that's just it. It's, you know, right? He's banging one of the Kardashians, right?
Yeah.
So therefore, anything that goes bad there gets swept under the rug immediately because they're America's sweethearts right now. So that's the reason it went away quickly. as far as festivals go, dude, we've had this kind of shit throughout. When Dimebag got killed, you didn't see any shows get canceled. None. When Great White burned the house down, they didn't cancel any shows. When Guns N' Roses had the St. Louis riot, they didn't cancel any shows. You know, the Who back in the 80s, I think it's 1980 when the Who had the stampede in Cincinnati. You know, 30 people died or whatever. I don't remember the numbers, but you know, it happens from time. The reality of life is you put more than 10 people in a room or in a space, every once in a while, someone's going to get killed in that space.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of it. You know, I mean, if we were going to really see an effect on concerts, I think we would have seen it after the Mandalay Bay thing. You know,
okay, that's a good point.
I mean,
The
you
Vegas thing.
literally had somebody that went out of their way purposely to kill people, and it didn't shun people from going to shows one iota.
Well, once again, that whole thing got swept under the rug. No one even knows what happened to that thing. I don't want to get into politics here, but we don't even know what happened with that. And you're right. That is, I totally forgot about that. That's a great point. That show, that country show, in Vegas. But once again, here's my thing, though. I mean, I really believe if this was a rock festival. Now, I'm not talking about shows. I'm talking more about festivals.
Sure.
Okay. You know, if that thing that happened in Vegas, if that was somehow, done, because we don't know what really happened, it's hard to really opine on it very much. But if it came out where that was, say, the artists themselves, okay, that sort of started something, and then someone started shooting or whatever. I mean, we would have endless, documentaries about it. We'd be hearing it all over the place. My thing too is just also think about this Astroworld thing. It was a rap festival, Obviously, it goes against a lot of the media's narrative and what they want to promote, their agenda. There's no way, like I said, that they're going to all of a sudden let this affect any future big, festivals for this kind of music.
Sure.
Because of what we said of who they're tied to and what connect. Obviously, it's mainstream music. But if it was not mainstream music, if it was, like I said, this happened at, say, Wacken, or one of those big festivals in Europe, or happened here, like there's the Aftershock Festival here, or the one, I forget the one that they just had down in, the Rock on the Ranges, or any of these type of big festivals and stuff. I think it would be detrimental. I think you're going to start seeing, I don't know if it's going to happen right away, but think about it. If you're someone now that's going to put on a big festival after this just happened, okay? If you're that Danny Wimmer guy or whoever, right? I mean, you're right. You're right away. I mean, it's going to dilute, I think, just the whole experience from it. You're going to start. I mean, we're going to start seeing, these festivals, these shows. Where we're going to have to be like Japan is, where we're standing there in a spot and you can jump up and down, but you can't move. You can't mosh. Are they going to outlaw stage? I mean, we already know you can't stage dive anymore. That's been gone now for quite a while. But what about moshing? You're going to have to hire a lot more security now. I mean, these festivals are going to require a lot more security, which means what? Increased prices for everything.
Of course.
For the fans. And when do fans say enough's enough? Like myself, I'm done. Like, I'm done with these festivals. I'm done with this stuff because it's not just, in terms of the money and how expensive it all is, but just all the hassles and all the lines you got to get through and all this stuff you got to get through just to even get into something. So I think, I know you think this is not, but I really think this is going to have a detrimental effect. You're going to have politicians who love to not let a good crisis go to waste, and they're sure as hell going to, I think, apply that to this situation. Promoters, I mean, they're going to fear the major lawsuits. On this situation, you have Drake and you have Travis Scott, two guys who are loaded. They can afford to deal with the lawsuits, pay these people off, whoever's suing them, and just sweep it under the rug. You're not going to have that when it comes to metal and hard rock festivals, though.
No, the thing is, and you're hitting on whether it will or will not be, what will cause it to either be or not be a problem. That's money. Yeah. It's really money. If you really believe that a promoter of a concert festival gives a shit if people that are there live or die, you're crazy.
Yep.
They don't care. They only care about how much is it going to cost me? What's my bottom line? And I won't go into any names on this, but I've worked with some people that put on smaller festivals and seen people end up with broken legs and broken
Oh yeah,
arms and shit like that at shows, and the only thing the promoter cared about was, did his insurance cover it? Or
sure.
was he gonna be personally responsible for
Hmm.
the cost of fixing somebody's leg or getting a pin in their arm or some shit? That's all they care about. If you think Danny Wimmer, that's making however many millions of dollars putting on his 3 festivals that he puts on,
Hmm.
if you think that he's gonna stop doing that because of fear of safety, no fucking way. He's only gonna do it because he's only making 15% return instead of 30 or whatever. And
Hmm.
again, I'm just throwing random numbers, but
Sure.
that's where it's gonna come from. The thought that these people care about the people, the crowd. Dude, you watched that same documentary I did about Woodstock '99.
Hmm.
Those promoters didn't give a shit about
Oh,
anything.
give two shits. Oh yeah.
The only thing they cared about was when they started losing money.
Hmm.
When it they didn't care when they were lighting shit on fire. They didn't care when people were mudsliding in shit slides. They
Hmm.
didn't care. They
Yeah.
only cared about it when it became money. When they
Hmm.
saw that they were gonna be sued. That's
Hmm.
when they cared.
Of
They looked,
course.
to your point about rock stuff, again, I still go back to the same thing. It's gonna be, it depends on who it is, not the genre it is. I
Mm.
think Metallica could get away with it. I
Well,
think
yeah,
I
I
think
think they're the one
Metallica
band.
as
Hmm.
a giant band, I think
Hmm.
U2 could get away with it. I think Springsteen could get away with it. I think the monsters that are
Hmm.
the media loved darlings could
Hmm.
absolutely get away with it. I don't think, I don't know, Cannibal Corpse could get away with it.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
think Testament, or I mean, what's a bigger band that's not necessarily media friendly? I can't really think of one.
Mm. Yeah, well, no, you're right, 'cause it
I don't
wouldn't
think
be
like
big if they weren't media friendly pretty much,
I
you
don't
know?
think a band like Korn could get away with it as easily,
You're right, okay, that's a good, band to, use as an example. I
because
agree. Yeah. Mhm.
they're just not loved, beloved. They have a hardcore fan base, but they don't have the media sucking their ass
Well, Limp Bizkit, they didn't get away with it,
because they
right?
never had the media never
Exactly.
liked Limp
Didn't
Bizkit.
like them. Mhm.
And they never did.
Exactly.
And if Limp Bizkit, Fred Durst just played the whatever Lollapalooza,
Uh-huh.
um, this last summer, and the first thing he said was, "This ain't 1999. Let's keep it calm," because he
Mhm,
didn't
yeah.
want any more problems.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
just wanted to play
Mhm.
his dumb show and make his money.
Well,
You
and
know,
that's what happens, right? Because of this shit, and that's all it takes is one person to fuck everything
Mhm.
up. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, I mean, just I mean, I may even not even talk on music. I remember when I moved to San Diego years ago, you used to be able to drink on the beach.
Mhm.
And I remember I was like, "Wow, you could drink on the beach." Yeah, you couldn't use glass. And people say we used to be able to use glass because, but then of course someone fucked it up because they got in fights and they started smashing glass all over the
Sure.
beach and the thing. So they got away with glass. But of course that was eventually you knew that this drinking on the beach thing wasn't going to last. Now you can't drink on the beach at all, cans or anything, because someone else went in and fucked it up. It always
Well,
takes one or two people to, do something stupid. Someone gets sued, then lawsuits in general. The lawsuits in general. I mean, and I get it. Trust me, I understand people, suing for good reasons. If there is a reason, if the like the whole, Great White, fiasco thing.
yeah.
Obviously, the Rhode Island show, of course, that was just a major disaster that someone needs to be responsible for that.
Mhm.
Um, but what happens is if you've just had, like you said, for instance, people, stage diving. I remember, yeah, being this guy I went to high school with, stage dived at a biohazard show, broke his neck, broke his collarbone, his neck.
Yeah.
He was a big dude. But I remember after that, you started seeing, not just that show, but in general, they were known for having violent shows. They weren't as violent as they used to be. I mean, no one was allowed
Sure.
to stage dive anymore. And, I just think a lot of what's going to happen is when you got these festivals, yeah, maybe not the major ones, but some of these smaller ones, are these, promoters or these owners of these venues, are they gonna, the risk reward factor is not good enough to sit there, open up your venue to a potential lawsuit because, one person does something stupid and then now you're bankrupt, your whole company, your business, whatever, and then your venue closes, and you basically just you got to start your whole life over. I don't see them really, risking that, because the reward isn't going to be that great in terms of, I mean, how much money if you're going to start, one of these smaller festivals, like for instance, there's these, stoner festivals that go on here now. They're called the Heavy Psych Sound Festivals. They have all over the globe. There was one that this Ripple Fest that went down in Texas. Supposedly that was a massive success.
Sure.
Now, if one clown does something stupid at one of these festivals next time, these bands aren't big enough. The labels aren't big enough to the point where these venues are going to take the hit, or these promoters are going to get involved with it just so that, they can make some money. You know what I mean? Not that much. It's just the risk reward factor is going to be, I think, it's not good enough for them to open themselves up to that, type of scrutiny or that type of lawsuit if it's something like that happens.
I'm going to tell you why you're wrong.
Okay, go for it.
It's a band that you just mentioned. Great White not having any problems getting any shows, and they're playing the same size shows that they were playing when the fire happened.
True, but that did set them back for some time.
Did it?
I think it did,
they
right?
I mean, playing for a while.
Well, yeah, exactly. They had to.
Well, they
right?
had to, as you know, you had 100 fans burned to
Sure.
death. But look up Great White on YouTube, and you will see them still playing in front of 4,000 people. People aren't afraid to go. Promoters aren't afraid to book them. Anybody that goes to a Great White show these days, somebody in their party makes the joke, "Hope we don't burn to death." Let's just be honest. And I'm not shitting on them. I mean, it truly was an accident, but let's just be honest and call it the way it is. People know about it. People are like, "Fuck it, I want to be entertained," so they'll spend the money. I saw Jack Russell's Great White not too long ago, 2 years ago, I guess it's been now because of the pandemic. But I saw it, made the joke. Sat in the seats, didn't get burned to death. Saw the show. I just think that with entertainment, people are willing to just deal with it.
Deal with a lot of shit. Yeah.
And that's what I think is, and as long as the venues, and this goes back to what I said before, as long as the venues can see profit, they really don't give a shit.
True.
Great White was never blackballed. Never were blackballed from playing gigs.
Well, think about it, because you're now going towards like a specific band, Sure, Great White has enough hits. They've got enough of a history where they could still, drive, after that'll happen a few years later, because everyone knew that was just I think most people realize that obviously it was just what are you going to do kind of thing, it sucks.
You want another one? You want another one closer to the band acting like idiots and still getting away with it? Guns N' Roses.
Okay, once again, I'm talking more about, I guess I'm lying more about like festivals, about trying to for bands, I mean, like I said, like I guess we'll use, like I said, those Danny Wimmer festivals. Okay. Like you said, people are still going to go, you know what I mean?
Sure.
My thing but here's the thing. Does it come, we've got, we've got, for instance, if you look at an audience, okay, like that, I mean, you're trying to bring in obviously a lot of a lot of these younger kids, right? They can't, a lot of them aren't going to be able to afford these festivals. You
Sure.
take a look like this Aftershock Festival, or the Rock on the Range or Rocklahomas, whatever they're expensive. Okay. If you're a younger kid, if you're a kid in your 20s, okay, and you got, say, the Aftershock, because Aftershock's a good thing because you got Metallica and you got all these, more modern metal bands, okay, younger bands. If you've got to drive, you got to find a way to get to the place. You've got to park. You've got to pay for your ticket. You've got to drink. You've got to eat. Blah blah blah. You've got all this shit that's just going to keep continuing to the prices are going to go up and up and up. You've got. I mean, I'm using. I know just a recent situation with our economy. You've got inflation up to yin yang. Okay. Who's going to pay? Like I said, we've already talked about, me and you. We've talked about before the show here. When it comes to those festivals, we're out. A lot of people, I think, our age, we're done with that stuff because, we're not young 20s anymore. It's not that important anymore. So a lot of people our age are going to stop going to these things, and if they haven't already. Now, when you're with the younger crowd, and we're the ones that can afford this. We're the ones that, our wallet, if it hits it, big deal, we're okay. These younger kids, I mean, they can't really, they can't afford to enjoy that experience financially. They're going to start walking away and saying, I think, you know what, it's just not worth it. I'll wait to see this band when they come and play at my local venue instead of going to this big festival. Now, I know it's, like I said, of course, there's going to be a lot of kids that it's worth it to them because
Yeah,
you said people want to be entertained regardless
yeah,
of the price.
you're making a big assumption here that I know is not true, and that's that younger kids are going to be responsible. Dude, when I was 20 years old, when I was, I'll point to one specific show that I went to that was a kind of a festival show, a Day on the Green, 91 out there. I couldn't afford that. I couldn't afford shit. Me and my now ex-wife, wonder why maybe when I tell this story, but you know, we were eating fucking ramen noodles and Uncle Ben's rice and calling that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And yet I bought tickets to go see fucking Day on the Green. You know, I mean, kids are irresponsible. If it's truly their favorite band that they want to see, they'll find a way to get there. They'll find a way to scrounge up the money, borrow it, beg it, sell their shit, sell the laptop mommy bought them. You know, they'll find their way to do it. That's why on all these festivals, no matter who the festival is, there's one megastar. There's always the Metallica. Metallica headlines all these festivals.
Oh, you got to have it. Yeah.
You know, you got to have the one or Judas Priest or, you know, you see all these younger bands playing and then the headliners are Slipknot, Judas Priest, and Limp Bizkit. And it's like, wait a minute, you know, why are they the headliners? Well, they're the headliners because the kids that didn't get to see those bands in their prime, this is their last chance to see that band. And then they could see all their other favorites as well. So yeah, maybe it's going to cost them $500 and they don't have $500. I'm with you. I'm with that. But when I was 19, 20 years old, I would have found a way. That's just me. I would have found a way. And, you know, I think that's the do you think that's still the promoters rely on young people being stupid and and not responsible.
But in this day and age, you know, let's be honest. I don't want to like, you know, pick on you know the youth or anything, but like you said, that was you, that was me too. Yeah, when something was going on, that was my whole. That was my. We're doing a pilgrimage to wherever it was to see that show, and however we were going to get there, we were going to get there. You know, I totally agree with you on that. But do these kids still have that same passion to do stuff like that these days? You know, I mean, I think things back then, you know. I mean, is a live music experience to them the same as for them today? Is it the same as it was for us back then? You know, especially when these kids can go, you know what, I can just go watch and I'll watch the video of the clip of it online on YouTube, but, you know, I don't need to really go through all that hassle to get, you know, wait online forever, pay $50 to park, pay $150 for the ticket. Where am I going to, I mean, think about it too. You know, a lot of those places, like when I used to go like, to these festivals, when I was in my 20s, you know, we would go, like, for instance, I remember just that Tattoo the Earth one. It was like the one that just came top of my head. You know, I remember driving. I was living in San Diego. We drove up to LA. We took, you know, to Orange County, San Bernardino, where that thing was. We rented a hotel. We got 5 of us in on a, you know, just shared a cheap hotel room. We did all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because we also had a group of people we did it with. I mean, and like I said, maybe I'm just not in tune with a lot of the youth today in terms of music fans. Is it still like that? I mean, from what you're...
Dude, I do think it is. And I mean, you can point to a bunch of examples of it. Firefest, another failed event.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
But, dude, that shit was what? $1,500 a hit, and the kids found a way to get there.
But, you know, that was a global... You know, that was sort of like when we see these shows, like, you know... Like when Mr. Bungle put their shows together, you started seeing people that were flying in from France and Europe to see these shows here. I think the Firefest and a lot of those, like another one, like for instance, these cruise ships, right?
That's or Monsters of Rock cruise and stuff like that.
7,000 tons of metal. Yeah, that whole thing. Like those, I know were a big hit there for a little bit because there were people who could afford those things. I mean, that's going to be tough to do, obviously, now, I think, just because of the whole pandemic thing, you know, the COVID stuff. But, I mean, are people going to, you know, that's different because that's catered to a little bit more people our age, people with a little bit more money, more settled in. You know, but my thing is just with, you know, I think the Firefest, once again, that's one of those destination festivals.
Sure. It was all young people.
But that was all young people that were there. And here's the thing. It was a global thing, though. You had a lot of the young kids with money from the globe. You know, when you're talking about local festivals, you're talking about like, you know, Yeah, I don't doubt that, like, for instance, Vakken or those festivals globally, I think are going to be fine. I think I'm just looking maybe more towards here in the States because, things aren't as prominent in terms of metal and hard rock here as I think they are in overseas. Me, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I just have this feeling that people. Let's be honest too. These kids these days, man, they're not as adventurous, and they're not as
No, they're not.
they're not willing to take the chances that we did. These kids are scared to go to a show for COVID, let alone if they think they're going to get stomped over now because of a situation like this. You got a lot of young kids that this is their first concert, this festival, this Astroworld. They see something like that happen. These kids are they going to be like, I don't want a chance to go into something like that again. Because think about it, they just don't have the. Like I said, I'm not trying to shit all over them. It's just the way the world is because of all the fear that's been put into them between social media and everything. I don't know if they're going to take the chances as they used to do, prior. I mean, that's
I
just
don't know that it's the youth though that are scared of COVID. I haven't seen any evidence of that. That the kids, the 20.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. With the COVID, no, I'm just saying. You're right. They're not. For the most part, they're not. But my thing is are they willing just to go to the lengths that people like guys like us did when we were young, or even people? I remember doing doing the skull sessions with Bob, and we were talking with Tom Brennan. He was talking about how in Ireland these guys used to travel. I mean, days to get to London, take boats, do whatever just to see a show.
Sure.
I don't know if kids because they've got their phones and things are so you can get some of the experience I think through online now, where before you had to be at the show to get any sort of musical experience, where now you can get some experience without actually being there physically.
I think the obvious yes that they are willing to do that is take out the result. They were all at this show. That show was sold out.
Oh, it was huge. Yeah.
So they're obviously willing to spend the big money to see that show. So now, I mean, the only thing that's different is now there's a practical thought that you might get killed at one of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
And do you really think that a 20-year-old that thinks they're invincible thinks anything other than, oh, well, that's those guys. It won't happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know the answer to that. I honestly, I know I went and saw Guns N' Roses. And again, I'm just pointing to myself. I saw Guns N' Roses 2 weeks after the St. Louis thing.
Okay.
And my wife was like, you're going to fucking get killed. You're going to get killed. And I was like, then I get killed. That was my attitude.
Yeah, sure.
That was my attitude. And I think that's probably these kids' attitude too. They don't believe that it could happen to them, and one of the other things too, just going to the money thing in today's world, I wonder how many parents just foot the bill just because they're happy to see their fucking kid out of the house. I mean, there's that too. There's it ain't like we were when we were scrounging,
True.
A lot of these kids are very spoiled, with no job and a $200 a month phone bill, living in dad's basement. Dad's mom and dad are a lot of the times willing to fund that money just to see their kid go out and do something. They'll pay anything for their kid to go camping, let alone go out with their friends to a show and to an event. I mean, there's a lot of reasons I just can't see fear closing down events. I mean, it might limit. I think if anything, it's going to limit them going to smaller events. I think young little bands that have to play a 300-seat club, I think they're going to get fucked because people don't have the $15 to spend because they spent $400 going to the big show where they saw 60 bands.
Great point.
I think that's probably going to be more of the ripple that you're going to see than as much as I really despise big concerts or big festival promoters, because most of them are shysters, not all, but most are shysters. The truth is they know what they're doing. They know that people are going to come. Very rarely, in fact, if you could name one, I'm all ears. Can you name a major festival like that that's ever been canceled?
No, it's too much money at stake. Absolutely, that you don't see that happen.
So they make sure that they know that it's going to happen. And I mean, those sometimes they run their course when they're on their fit, like Rocklahoma sort of ran its course, but even that reinvented itself.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, M3, what is that?
M3.
10, 12, 15 years that's still been going.
Yeah.
You know, Rock on the Range, they changed the name now to whatever it's called now, but it's carried right on with, you know, 50,000 people each day for 3 days. Incarnation, that's another one that they have here with that they shoot in the Shawshank.
Okay. Yeah. Shining Spot. Yeah.
You know, they do that. That sells out every year. Festivals will sell. The promoters know that. Believe me when I tell you they have cost evaluation to figure out exactly how much money people will spend before they book it, and then they book the bands against the cost evaluation.
What's cost evaluation? Yeah.
That's, I mean, they're not just saying, yeah, dude, we're gonna get a venue and we're gonna get Metallica and it's gonna kick ass. You know, the guys that do that are the guys that run, you know, Loud and Lima or whatever, that are fanboys that lose their fucking ass.
Oh yeah.
You know, these Wimmer, I guarantee you, Wimmer has more spreadsheets than I have sheets
Oh
of paper
yeah.
in my house.
Absolutely.
You know? And that's why I don't think it'll affect that industry too greatly. I think it will definitely affect the smaller. Indirectly, it's always going to affect the smaller thing. You know, like here in Cleveland. Cleveland's too close to Rock on the Range, so we never get good tours anymore. Because all the tours, what they do is they package them all up, play Rock on the Range, and they say, well, they can't play here because it's too close. You know, so violence, though, dude, violence has always been a part of shows. And it's dying has been a part of shows, and broken bones has always been a part of shows.
Well, that yes,
and it hasn't changed a thing. Not really. I mean, dude, there's been more change in the smoking policy than there has been the moshing policy.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. You know, well, I mean, let's pivot to that. You know, talking about, you're right. Now, live music, you know, in terms of these smaller bands, exactly, the up and coming underground bands. You know, like you said, I think at this point, what we're seeing, you know, regardless, I think too, whether, you know, things go back to quote unquote normal or not. I mean, right now, the live music scene for, I think, a lot of these underground bands, it can't sustain itself. You know, let's just talk. I mean, for one, we just like we were talking about earlier. I mean, we got this inflation generally in the economy going on. Okay, that's destroying, in my opinion, what's little left there is of really underground hard rock and metal in terms of, you know, ventures. I mean, how can a music, you know, entity, you know, whether it's a venue or it's a label or an independent label or a small record store, I don't see how any of them can profit the way the music business is today. I mean, people, I think, you know, tend to underestimate how important really a lot of these small venues, labels, and entities are, how essentially they are in terms of the growth and movement in terms of breaking bands. I mean, even though, major labels, we know they're not scouring the underground scenes looking for, you know, the next big thing anymore. It's still the place. Those small labels and those small venues and those record stores are still a place where these bands and these artists can sort of hone their chops and learn how to create their own, you know, underground, you know, following until they can kind of, you know, until they start touring and all that stuff, you know, and putting out, you know, records. Yeah, I mean, yes, musicians these days, right? They're more probably independent than they ever have been because they're forced to be. But they can't just do it alone. I mean, it needs to be podcasts and blogs and labels and bars and that are going to help, you know, these scenes exist and potentially flourish. But I mean, if these you know, labels and venues and so on can't even break even in terms of, you know, what they're trying to create, which a lot of them can't do now, it's going to be a detrimental effect on trying to push, you know, these underground hard rock and metal bands because people, we know they're not buying records anymore. Right. So there's no, what are these ventures getting now on a return on investment when it comes to record stores or labels? Well, not really. That's why there's not many of them anymore. The new sites, mostly, as we know, we've been talking about, you know, ad nauseum, they're all clickbait. You know, for like I said, for reasons, people have to understand there's a reason why they're clickbait. It's because that's the only way they're going to generate income, or else there'll be no news sites.
Right.
And then these labels need to, you know, I mean, now if you're an independent label, you got to tap into the streaming and even merchandising revenue from these bands and artists, which is the only way they can generate any income themselves. So there's not enough really to go on between the two of them. And like I said, without these record stores and in-person signings and all that, you know, all that shit that used to happen that really used to push underground hard rock and metal bands and music, how else can the average, you know, fan or entrepreneur, let alone artist, do anything viable these days to generate income it's like, I mean, it's everything's becoming passion projects, sort of like what we're doing with
Sure.
podcasts and blogs and everything. But those things, you're not tied down with making money to where you could just say, well, I can't stop. If someone's doing it for a while, they simply get burned out about, or just get bored of it, whatever it is.
Sure.
They could just go, all right, well, there's no money I'm investing, not too much I'm investing into it, and there's nothing to really be gained or invested. So they could just drop it like a hot potato, and that's it. I mean, that thing that was good. I mean, we saw that recently with, I don't want to name the podcast you just mentioned. There's obviously a long time, one of the original metal podcasts out there that's closing up shop right now. I think that has a lot to do with it because,
sure,
not only are the podcasts, there's a million one of them now. It's just that there's no way to make any money to break even to pay for, servicing, for whatever, services you're using, to push your podcast. So challenges are greater now than ever.
Well, they are. They are. And I honestly think that the smart bands that are in it for real are going to have to adapt to the new yet undeveloped market.
Yeah. And undeveloped is the word. Yes.
And
yeah.
I'll give one example, which I found to be brilliant, and it has nothing to do with music, but I found it to be a brilliant way to market. I was watching a documentary yesterday on it's on Amazon Prime. It's called Pulse 49.
Okay.
If people want to watch it, it's about that Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida a couple years ago, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They do the whole documentary. It's a whole thing, but at the end of it, they have a guy that wrote a song and sings the song and does a music video as the end part of the documentary. And I was like,
okay,
this guy is fucking brilliant. I in my head, I was like, that's the way people got to do it now. You the biggest thing out right now is YouTube, but everybody just floods YouTube with a fucking lyric video and they think they're done. No, if you want to be successful as a band, reach out to every podcast talking about every damn thing under the sun and say, hey, can I write a song for your podcast? Can I write a song about blah, blah, blah? Can I write a song that you use as an opening track, closing track, commercial bait, whatever? Can I participate in your podcast? Because the podcasting, is there revenue in it? Maybe not, but there's millions of ears in it. There's millions of eyes on it. If you get on the right podcast and you're doing the opening song, you could very well launch and have, if nothing else, if you say, look, I'll give you an opening track. The only thing I ask is that in your credits at the end of your podcast, you plug my shit, my website or whatever, you might see return. And that's the same as going out. In my mind, that's probably today's version of going out and playing the club for 20 people and then 22 people and then 31 people and then 50 people. That's the modern way to do it now is with YouTube, where people can learn about you on your phone. It's just social media is as much as we all hate it, we're old. It's the way it is. I'll point to the band Plush that, I know those ladies and whether you like their music or you don't like their music, if you follow them on social media, you will realize that is 4 teenage or now 20-year-old experts at social media. They know how to work it. They've known how to promote it. And just through social media alone, I mean, they formed in 2020 for fuck's sake. And just through social media push, they signed with a major guy, Johnny K. They've toured with Daughtry. They've toured with Seven Dust. They've toured with Evanescence. They've toured with Hailstorm. They're going to be touring with Slash. It's like
they're going to be huge. Yeah.
But they've done it without ever slugging it out in a club.
You're right. Yeah.
To my knowledge, they've never played a club.
That's, and that is the thing, dude. I don't care. The most important thing, you nailed it on the head, man, is you got to have the social media presence. Look,
and
you're
smart,
not going to
and smarts, not just the presence.
Well, okay,
it's the presence.
Sure, well, you're right. Well, what I mean by presence is you got to live on the thing. You got to live on it. You have to. I mean, you're not going to succeed without it. I mean, like we said, we all hate it. We know it's a necessity. I think that it's one of those, necessary evils, if you want to call it. But it's time to even, I think, get past looking at it being, a necessary evil. It is a necessity. It is
Yeah.
the way, not just a way. It's the way. Everybody needs to embrace it. I mean, it's like you have no choice. I mean, especially over the last 2 years, that's where music's been living. Since we've had no live music, people have gotten used to everything being online. Yes, and even some of the older heads who can barely access social media, they're becoming more engaged online because, like I said, for the last years, it's the only place where you can keep up with the bands. So, I mean, you have to be, and it's not just okay. Well, we're on Instagram. We don't do Facebook. Oh, shut up! You got to do all of it. You got to do more than just Facebook and Instagram. You got to be active
and all that other shit. You got to
all those platforms. I mean, and it is. Look, and we've talked about it. Like I said, I think it's just been one of those things that people knew they had to embrace it and want to. They passively, aggressively embraced it. Now, if you don't aggressively embrace it, you're done. The other thing I'm just saying about this, especially now. Okay, look, I mean, because I do, like we've said, the glass is half full. I do believe live music and just music in general, rock and metal, it's going to get back to a place, really soon in a really good spot. I really do believe that. But I think there are some things you got to do right now to sort of, I mean, to continue to move forward. Like you said earlier in this, episode, stop whining for one, online. Stop complaining. We've got to deal with what is. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Look at it. I mean, start playing. My suggestion is, for one, play some free local intimate shows. You got to almost you stay away from the politics. Look, we all have our opinions. Stop using your platform, quote unquote platform, to promote your own personal opinions on shit. Realize you're an entertainer. Okay, people want to go to be entertained. Okay, we say this a lot, but come with a message of optimism. Not online with, like you said, a pessimistic. This sucks and we're all hurting. Yeah, everybody's hurting, man. Like you said, everybody's going through the experience. Fans want to go in, and they're going to remember bands who are, during a tough time like this, are the ones that are out there sort of, I don't want to use the word unifying people. That's a little bit too whatever, but they're keeping things like, like I said, they're keeping it optimistic. I know it's tough to do in this environment, but you have to do that, at this point.
And the thing, and I'll let you finish this. I just want to jump in.
No, yeah, jump in. Yeah, please.
The thing I think people are misassessing by being social justice, whatever, not even social justice, just political or social justice or whatever, is everybody equates it to a time that is done. And everybody equates it to that 60s, 70s, fight the man, fight the war movement. The only reason they had that and they had their music and stuff, and that worked for that collection of bands, was because they didn't have social media. That was their only outlet to be out there.
Exactly.
Social media has painted a picture where everybody's voice is important. Well, the truth is everybody's voice is not important. My voice, your voice, not very important. The drummer of Death Angel, his voice is not very important.
Nope.
His playing's important if you're a fan of Death Angel, but do you really give a shit what Will Carroll thinks about fucking President Biden? I doubt it.
Exactly.
I doubt it. No one cares. So on that level, you need to stop thinking that you're the next wave of these crusaders of bands that's going to lead to political change. You're not.
Never.
If anybody was going to do that, it was Rage Against the Machine, and they didn't.
They didn't, exactly.
Stop thinking that that's going to happen. It's not. That time is done. So do what you do. Entertain fucking people. Just go out, entertain. Go back. If you want some old school reaction, fine. Play a kick-ass show, and I promise you, everybody going home is going to give you the old school reaction. Man, those guys fucking kicked ass. Where can I get their music? Spotify? Can I buy a thumb drive here? Can I buy a shirt? Whatever. If you kick ass, they'll do it. If you get up there and start whining about your politics, well, half the people are guaranteed not to buy your fucking shirt.
And not see you again next time you play live because they don't want to hear that fucking message.
Exactly.
And and I totally agree, man. I also just think bands, they got to almost pretend in a way. They have to sort of mentally prepare themselves that, hey, whatever momentum you had pre-COVID and the 2 years ago, it's pretty much going to be gone.
Yeah.
You haven't been able to play, live shows and tour, so you're not going to have that momentum. You have to almost kind of go back to scratch. It should be like, okay, let's pretend that we're just a brand new band
Sure.
again, you
Mhm.
know, and let's go out. Listen, if you and like I said, really focus on regional location. Focus on, well, that, and of course, I mean, with playing live shows, if you're, luckily in a state that's able to play live, do so locally. I mean, not just, within your main city. You don't want to overexpose yourself. But at this point, I don't think there is such thing as overexposure because no one's being exposed. So it's like get out every couple of months locally in your hometown. Go to like, a four city like they used to do, what bands used to do. They have that 4 or 5 city circuit that they would tour, throughout the year all the time on, play
Yeah.
two shows a year
Mhm.
and do that. And when you play these shows, obviously the key is to make it a very community type of feel again. Like, I mean, when you think about when metal started, I mean, we're just here in the States, right? We can use one of our buddies, Bob Nalbandian, when you
Sure.
had those fanzines and you
Mhm.
had where the Metallica, and what did they do? They played in Orange County and they played in LA. Between Hollywood and Orange County, they played in all the time. There were,
Yeah.
it's a big enough area, there's plenty of venues where they would play those areas. That's what
Mhm.
these bands need to do. Play the small bars, not
Sure.
just the good venues. Make it a community feel again. Start doing fundraisers for the local venue or the local record store. Do some of this. I'm not saying to make it old school like that, but do it in a way where you're supporting each other again. That is such a, I think, a
Yeah.
very key thing where they're so focused, a lot of these bands, on themselves because they got screwed because of COVID and they lost their momentum
Mhm.
and now they're not
Mhm.
selling this. Everybody has. Well, then get
Yeah.
a couple of your bands together that you all did,
And do
come
something.
together, do something that's just that is more than just we're
Right.
playing a live show, guys. Come out and watch us.
Yeah. And again, I'm gonna piggyback back to the social media a little bit.
Hmm.
Stop trying to be the same as your fans. Stop
Hmm.
it. Go entertainment, whether it's movies, TV, music, whatever is enter sports, entertainment is supposed to represent something bigger than the regular world that regular people live in.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
what it's supposed to be. So
exactly.
being online talking about the same horse shit that everybody else is doing reduces your value as an entertainer.
Absolutely, dude. Great point.
It just,
Absolutely.
there's so many, dude, how many bands, and you don't have to name them, but how many bands were you a fan of 2 years ago that now you couldn't give a shit if they do anything ever again because because they lowered themselves to
Hmm.
wherever
Right.
we are versus when they
Yeah.
were bigger than life. They're not bigger than life now. They're the same as us. And that's, you
Hmm.
know what? That'd be like if my neighbor was playing a backyard show. I'm 50-50 if I even look out the window to look at it.
I know. No, you're right.
Right?
Yeah,
Well,
you're absolutely right, man.
because he's the same as me. Why would I give a shit that he's playing a show in his backyard?
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, what? Why do I want to go see, I don't know, Ted Nugent? Ted Nugent now,
Hmm.
shares the same values as half of my friends.
Sure. Hmm.
So why is he special?
No,
He's not.
you're right. And that's a great point because it's this that mystique, in your head when you grow up and you didn't have the access to
Yeah,
to hear what these guys' opinions were unless it was done in a magazine interview. But that was something that you waited for. You spent money on. You
and
went to the store to buy it. Now someone just clicks on the computer and they're seeing everything that you like or believe in or don't believe
yeah,
in, and it just kills the mystique of the artist themselves. Like you said, there's things where you call about overexposure. Well, if you're on there and you're bitching about something political every day or anything in general every day on your social media page, that's the one thing about social media presence that hinders and doesn't help is when you're giving your fans too much of it. If you want to, listen, save that all that anger, all that stuff you have that you want to come out and say on social media, save that, put it into your lyrics and put a song out about it.
yeah,
Don't go out there and just put a little blurb on Joe Biden or Trump or whoever. No one cares. Save whatever you want to say, put it into your music. Let your music do the talking, not
yeah,
your quote unquote social media platform. And
yeah,
like I always said too, I think another thing that's really important. I know I've talked about this a few times, and I know not everybody's down with, but if you do it, it's such a huge thing. Is live streams, and I'm not talking about having a live stream show with a fake, audience or like pretending you're in a venue. Just do it from your practice room. Sit in your practice room. Yeah. Say, hey, we just came up with this new song we're working on. We want to play a little thing for you guys. We're going to give you a little taste of it. I mean, there's so much that social media can do positively for your band if you just learn how to do it the right way. But when you start making it about yourself, that's when shit goes south and people start losing interest.
Dude, I was watching. It's funny you bring that up because I watched. I was tooling around on I think it was Facebook 2 weeks ago, and I came across Mark Rizzo, the former Soulfly guy, and he was just on his bus. Him and some guy. I don't even know who the guy was, and they were just rocking. They were just playing, and I clicked on it, and I was like, let me just see what this is about. I must have watched for like 25 minutes. Just sat there and just watched him play and watched these guys play because it was cool and it was different and it wasn't met with. And here's one that we wrote because the inflation rate is 3 times the national average of last year. It wasn't any of that shit. It was just here's a guy elevating himself past what I can do. This is what makes Mark Rizzo special in my mind.
There you go.
The way this guy plays his fucking guitar. And believe me, if he would have followed it with some political speech, I'd be like, out. Don't give a shit what you think about politics.
And that is a good point, dude. Like Mark Rizzo, I think is a great guy to bring up about that because he's also a guy who's been. I know he played a bunch of shows with Tony Campos and that cover kind of band they had, that hard rock metal cover band.
Hails and Horns.
Yeah, Hails and Horns. He just went on a tour, like you said. I think he was touring with Nina Strauss.
Yeah.
So, like with those two, I mean, that looked fun. Because they're up there, they're posting all these cool pics and videos of the fun they're having on stage, and they're singing cover songs of whatever. Once again, they're making it fun. They're not going out there going, all right, talking politics or talking all the shit. They're being optimistic. They're reminding people of what this is about to begin with, which is about having fun. Metal was always fun. Hard. They're playing those old songs. It's the the old 80s promote where it was all about metal gods and all the Man-O-War, Judas Priest stuff, all the pro metal stuff. Yeah, that stuff is fun, man. It's keeping it optimistic. When I see that stuff, when I see a Rizzo doing that, and I see Anita Strauss doing that, listen, when live music really opens up again, I'm going to go see them. Yeah. I'm going to go see them because they were the ones that were sitting there, going out there playing in these bars. I mean, these are big time musicians playing with big time, bands. They don't have to do that stuff.
Yeah,
they're not making it.
Certainly doesn't need to be playing bars.
Absolutely not.
It's on tour every year with Alice Cooper. She does not need it.
Exactly. So it's like those are the ones that are doing the bars. I love that I'm seeing them in bars because they're showing you my ego isn't too big where I think I'm too big for these smaller bars. In fact, that's when you're going to gain such a loyal fan base when you present yourself in an intimate setting like that, and you make yourself available to fans and having fun and shaking their hands and they buy your T-shirt. Just the old school, simple, traditional, old-fashioned way of doing things. That's the one thing, whether you're old or young, that's never going to get lost on a music fan.
And the ones that have done that have always thrived. I mean, guy that's an old school guy, but is still doing it well, doesn't come to the U.S. often, but what he does, he sells out everywhere. Marty Friedman.
Yeah. Yep.
Marty Friedman comes out. Again, what's his politics? No one knows.
No one knows.
No one knows. No one cares. All we know is, man, does he kick ass when he plays?
Exactly.
And he plays bars.
Oh yeah, what do you call it? Did too was playing these Uli John Roth when he came here a couple years ago. Played this bar in Orange County. He played this really small place here in Oakland. I mean, these guys. I mean, like I said, and selling out, and people will continue. Look, the bottom line is they could continue to at least survive / thrive in that environment, regardless of what's going on with the music business in general.
Yeah,
and like I said, in these live streams, man, once again, make it fun. It could be goofy. Put out stupid, videos on YouTube. You have your YouTube channel. Get together and just put out a 2-minute clip of doing something silly in the studio. Every day, every other day, put something out.
Yeah.
Flood the zone in that way. You can never promote your face too much on social media and your logo and everything. That is just going to stick in people's minds.
Except if you're doing politics or real life
exactly.
shit.
Yes.
Leave all your real life shit off the table. Be bigger than life.
Exactly.
That's what flood,
Yeah.
dude. Any social media thing that I would ever follow, and I'm not a big social media guy at all, but any band or whatever that I would follow, I would never follow any that's given me any kind of fucking politics,
Exactly.
finance, any of that stuff. Selling their fucking coffee or their wine. Don't care about any of that shit.
Yep.
Give me, you know who's great at social media? I mean, great at it. Metallica.
Yeah.
Metallica does nothing but promote Metallica. That's
No,
all they do.
no politics at all, Metallica.
None.
Exactly.
They
None.
promote Metallica, and they are the kings of it.
Yep. I mean, like, it's that we've said it a couple of times. You start going woke. You start talking politics. You're going to go broke. I mean, this is a great example. There's this online record store that was around for years. It used to be called stonerrock.com. It eventually became allthatisheavy.com.
Yeah.
So great stoner doom, all these underground hard rock and metal bands globally. It was a phenomenal site.
Sure.
The guy sold it, okay, because he was running it out of like his like a trailer in the middle of Idaho, supposedly.
Okay.
I think he eventually just moved from wherever and just opened up, just a trailer, and that's how he ran it. That's how he lived his life, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. But he wound up selling it to this couple out of Texas. And I remember it because I used to buy records all the time off it. When they bought it, I saw things changing. They started making it about themselves, like they were certain celebrities because they owned this thing. They had the guy's wife had like an OnlyFans page for herself, trying to be some porn star. Next thing you know, this, and I remember I ordered the last Earthless record off it, and it took forever to come in. They didn't communicate well, and I remember emailing the guy finally and being like, "Hey, dude, at least I've been buying off this site for years, and I've never had this type of service, man. You guys could at least let me know this, or that." What does the guy do? Instead of just say, "Oh, listen, I'm really sorry, man. I want to keep your business." No, he just says, "Well, we've been getting quite the opposite reaction from our other customers. So basically like shut up and deal with it kind of thing."
Yeah.
I never bought it.
Which your answer is, I don't give a shit what you've done with other customers. I care about my
Not
fucking
me,
order,
exactly.
And now I'm not going to be a customer of yours anymore.
And I wasn't, and lo and behold, they're out of business. Bottom line, they're done. This was a company that was around for years that they completely dismantled and destroyed because they didn't have what the fuck they were doing. They wanted to be celebrities themselves. So once again, like you said, they were talking politics on it. They were talking all this shit on their site. It's like, dude, you're selling your store, selling online records, and here you are spewing, promoting yourselves and promoting your politics. The dumbest thing you could have done. They're completely, like I said, the whole thing's finished. They're down. So once again, keep it, like you said, keep it not personal. Keep it to where it is, which is about the music and it's fun. Can't stress that enough. I know we talk about that a lot, but I don't think we can stress that enough because it does. It destroys bands and it destroys, other ventures within music.
Well, look, I'll break it down even more simple than that. If you want to be a legend, act like a legend.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
If you want to be like everybody else, then fucking talk politics and talk bullshit and talk, talk about shit that everybody talks about all day long. See how far that takes you. It won't be far.
It won't be far. I completely agree, man. All right, man. Well, we're an hour in here. I think we've talked about as much as we can with this. Unless you have any closing comments in this.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, I hope, like I said, I definitely do feel optimistic about live music this year. I think things will get back to hopefully by the summer, even though we've heard this the last 2 years. I think things should really be kicking in. Like a lot of things are opening up in certain places. So it should be a good year. I think it's going to be 2022. Hopefully, this year when shit kind of gets back into gear. And if not, like you said, we've been talking about. You've got online to help you get. And my thing is just one quick thing. Not even to get you through this. This is an opportunity for bands to really extend their reach. So when live music and things kind of go back to hopefully to some sort of semblance to what we've seen previously over the years, you have this whole other avenue to promote yourself with social media you didn't know how to navigate before. You had time to hone it to really figure out a good strategy to use for your band. Now, when things really kind of get back out there and things are really opening up full time with music, you've got both the live music setting and the social media live stream thing or whatever thing you want to use for it that can do nothing but continue to just push your band forward and just stop bitching, as we've saying, and get on there, be positive, be optimistic, and just don't take your foot off the pedal. Just keep going like nothing's happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Agree.
All right, man. Well, we're ready to wrap this one up. So anything with Chris Aiken Presents coming up, or any of the other shows?
I have no idea what's coming up on it. I'm so scheduled way in advance, but people can check that out at chrisaikenpresents.com or just chrisaiken.net, actually. chrisaiken.net for Chris Aiken Presents, or theclassicmetalshow.com for The Classic Metal Show, Aftershocks TV for Aftershocks, of course, heavymetaltelevision.net for Heavy Metal Television. New book on the way. I'll talk more about that at some point. It never stops over here.
Never ends.
I'm a machine. I'm a legend.
There you go. So what the hell are you talking to me for if you're a legend then, right? Why are you talking with me?
I'm trying to elevate you.
All right. Well, good. Maybe I'll just shut up then. I'll let you talk more. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Later.